Gang, since potty train, we live, we live. Hold up. Let's make sure we get these headphones.
They probably about to die soon. But F it. We in this thing. Gang, since potty train. You are now watching J.U.K Sports Show. I am your host, Kyng Ralph, here with the homie, my co-host today, the homie Tar. What's good, my boy?
Man, I'm good, man. Watching these Nevada Wolfpack. Hoping we get into this tournament. March Madness is coming up. I'm excited for that, man. It's a big weekend, man. We got the NFL Combine. March Madness is coming up. A lot of exciting things on tap.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love this time in sports where right after Super Bowl, right after the All-Star game, then you get the Combine. Hockey starts kicking up too. Baseball season starts. March Madness gets going, and it has the world on a chokehold.
Facts.
But before we get started, I want to send a shout out to the sponsors. If you want to do any podcasts like what you're watching, photo shoots, music videos, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. Make sure you go like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff at Juke Media on YouTube, the He Say She Say channel on Facebook. You can find me at KynGRalph on all platforms at -- for Twitter or X, and then follow us on Instagram at J.U.K. And some juicy headlines over the past weekend. Not to mention, so we're gonna start. There's a lot that happened. So we're gonna start with Kyle Filipowski and Duke are upset by Wake Forest. Wake Forest fans, students storm the court. Filipowski gets injured, causes a whole ruckus. He eventually is diagnosed with a sprained ankle. John Shire goes on to say we need to ban court storming. Should we ban the court and field storming?
And he wasn't even the first to get hurt either. Like if you remember earlier too, Caitlin Clark got elbowed earlier by a court storming incident. It's starting to become more of an issue because of players are getting hurt, right? And as I'm watching my college right now play basketball, it made me remember like the days we did it, right? And I think that's the one reason why, like, I don't think it will go away and they shouldn't ban it, but I believe the protocol should be a lot better because there's no protocol actually for it, right? Because as I'm remembering, my college memories, if you ever look at the student section, like when you're watching the game, where's the security? Like there's guys who make minimum wage that you're asking to do like crowd control, right? Like, well, I remember like my college, the dude that watched our student section we ran on the court was in my homeroom, my size, right? So, I think that you need they need a better like action plan for it in order for it to work. And when I say an action plan, I mean, if you're playing a ranked team of that week, and just in case if your team, could win, heighten security more that day into the student section because you're asking, like I said, like 10,000 people, or however big the student section is, 2 or 3 small security guards to watch the crowd. That's not a successful plan. Secondly, I feel like there could be like a warning, right? Like in the pamphlets or in the brochures that you get when the game starts about crowd storming, like wait until the opposing team walks off the court in order to run on. Or you have that big, the big board, right? Like if there's 2 minutes, if there's a 2-minute warning in the basketball game, TV timeout, your team is up. Hey, just in case if we win, wait until the opposing team walks off the crowd to storm the floor. I think if you had a better protocol for it, it could stay because you can't get rid of it, and it's a part of the game, obviously. And secondly, we're going to do it anyway, right? So they're going to do it anyway, right? So I just think it needs to be a better action plan for it to be an effective, for it to be effective and for it to work. So I think is here to stay. They're not gonna get rid of it. They just got to prepare better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that for the people that have been saying ban it, I completely disagree with that. I think you got to find other measures to not take that away because I feel like to go back to my college days, that is an experience that you can't really that nobody can take away. Like, oh, I remember when I was a junior, we beat such and such, we stormed the court. Like that's a great experience, but you can do it in a way where players can get off the court. I remember a couple years ago, I want to say it was when like I remember Indiana beat Kentucky in Indiana on a last second shot. And I remember someone from Kentucky flipped or like tripped over the guy that made the shot, like his foot was out. And then they stormed the court. And I remember it being a big deal about back then trying to get players off the court when before it happens, because that could have got to a point where he got trampled while being on the court. And so I think there's a way to make it work where both sides are good and healthy and other side can still have that experience. Before we get to the point of just completely nobody rushes the court no matter what.
Right.
And so to go from college up to NBA, there's been a plethora of altercations. We had the Isaiah Stewart swinging on Eubanks, which I'm like, yo, I feel like Isaiah Stewart, we need to get that man some help or pray for that man. But then we got the Jimmy Butler and Najee Marshall situation. There's been some other ones, but we come from that 90s cloth where we're used to seeing fights and such. Is this good for the NBA?
I think from a competitive standpoint, it can be. But once we start getting into like criminal activity, essentially like the Isaiah Stewart situation, that's criminal. And that's not a good thing for the league. But trash talk, like we mentioned this before on the show, like trash talking is always a good thing, right? Because it leads to certain competitive things. But things that like Draymond Green does, like that's not good for the league, essentially. Right. But I think the problem that I had with this fight, it oftentimes leaks into the crowd, and the crowd makes certain NBA fights about them. And it becomes a bad thing from the NBA because the last time we got into a big situation like that was Malice in the Palace, right? Like, I don't know if you got a chance to see some of the videos of the fight from the crowd's perspective, but you seen that dude throw a water bottle on the court and stuff like that. A couple of weeks, I think last week too, a fan called KD a B word, right?
I saw that, bro. That was wild.
He approached
tried to plug his podcast afterwards, bro. Like,
right,
what?
Right. He tried to like shake his hand after you. Like his wife was like, "Give me a hug." Like, you want some popcorn?
Dap
like,
me up. What? You just called me a bitch. What you mean?
What you mean? So it's like when that type of thing starts leaking into the crowd, that's when it becomes bad because we're in the day and age of clout, and everybody wants to be clout, and everybody wants to be in their moment. And it's like, what does that fight have to do with you as a fan to throw a water bottle, right? And that's when it becomes bad for the NBA because then it makes the fans think that that shit's appropriate. And then they start to do it, and then it leaks out into a further situation, right? But chippiness is going to be a part of the league. Yep. It's just, it is what it is, right? Like you're going to get trash talking. You're going to get, hard fouls. You're going to get these things. And that is good for the competitive aspect of the league. But it becomes bad when other elements that you can't control creeps into it, like the fans creeping into it and thinking that it's okay. And when it starts to get into like legal situations where somebody is waiting for a player or before the game to approach them and punch them in the face, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that becomes criminal, and that's when it becomes bad, right? So I think it has to be a divide between good and bad, right? Like we have to monitor and know what's good and know when it's bad.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely one of those things where it's a fine line,
right,
between good and bad, and very, very fine line, because I think that competitive nature will be able to bring a certain fan base back that can also bridge in with the current fan base. But also, if you go too far, it can take that. It can be bad for business. Which,
Right.
if it's bad for the NBA, it's only a trickle down effect before it's bad for the players. And so I do think that there's a very fine line. I do think that it's good, but we gotta keep it on the court
Right.
to a certain degree. So I definitely agree with you. Bron was up in the media again, as he always is. I've seen it on both sides, but pretty much Bron tweeted some time ago about how Bronny was better than some dudes in the league. Now, recently, Bronny hasn't been playing so well, or throughout the whole season, he hasn't played so well to where he was in mock drafts before. He's no longer in them now. And they've moved him to the 2025 mock draft, which, me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that just that alone is a reason for him to come out and criticize the media and tell them to ease up on him. And he's a player that works hard and is trying to improve his game and let people develop. But it's like, sir, you jumped out on that cliff a while ago, like a couple months ago, and nobody asked you to say all that. You just tweeted that. Now he's not meeting that standard, and now we're wrong for saying something about it. That's the part for me where I'm kind of like, I don't know. Stephen A. said it's LeBron's fault, but where do you stand on this issue?
No, I agree with you. What you just said, right? Like, it was all fun and games until he started struggling, and all of a sudden, yeah, right. Because I think what we do too, like with young players, why I think mock drafts and certain things are good for them, and could be bad for them and detrimental, because it lets you know when to stay and when to leave, right? Like, I don't think Bronny's in that situation where he's forced to go because his dad is a billionaire and is rich. But a lot of these young players make that mistake by looking onto the mock drafts and be like, oh, they got me here and there. And then I'm not projected as that. And then I go into the second round or don't get drafted at all. Right. So that's a thing that players been dealing with for years. And it's not going to go anywhere. Right. Like you have to take certain accountability to yourself as a player to understand and know your own like stock and your own evaluation and not feel yourself that much, right? And understand if I'm good or I'm bad. And I think that if anything, it should serve as I need to work harder for Bronny, right? It should motivate me to work harder because I was right here and I go from there to there, right? And I've seen that the last couple of years in the draft. Like the kid from Coronado, Jaden Hardy, was supposed to be a top 5, top 15 pick, right? And he didn't end up going to the second round. Amani Bates, right? Like was supposed to be like the next Kevin Durant, was a phenom, right? And he picked a bad situation, got in trouble off the court, and then he ended up falling into the second round, right? So I think that should serve as, if I see myself in a certain way, I should take heed to that, because Jaden Hardy started sliding and Imani Bates started sliding. And if I see myself sliding, that should make me say, you know what, let me come back next year and work on certain things. But they feel like I got to jump to the NBA today. Right. And currently Jaden Hardy's he's barely getting burned on the Mavericks, and Imani Bates is in the G League. Right. So it comes down to just really knowing yourself and knowing your stock and not taking all that so personally. And if you do, make it motivate you to get better, because I used to be here and now I'm there.
Right. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like I said, like in my opening statement, I guess you could say, I agree with them taking him off, because I went into it knowing that he doesn't have like something about him that's just crazy. Like, I think his best attribute is his shooting or IQ.
Not to cut you off, but his younger brother is way better. Bryce is way better.
Yeah, facts. I can see Bryce being a one and done, but I think Bronny gonna have to get it out the mud.
Yeah, for sure.
Bronny gonna have to be able to. I think he'll be better suited to when he can be the guy on the team, instead of, because I think for people can only see you be what you are in that moment. There's only so many people that can, like, you know what, I can see the diamond in the rough in you. Where I feel like with him having Isaiah on the squad, it's always going to take away from how he runs the team. which is how people view him as and expect him to be. So then him stepping in and being a role player on a team that's not that good, it's like it can be a detriment to what he is. I look at him as someone that's going to play good defense, can run the squad and knock down jumpers, but I don't see him being this 25-point scorer unless he's going to shoot a certain amount of 3-point attempts.
If we're being honest, he wasn't really that nice in high school. If we're being, he gets the hype because of his dad. To be perfectly honest with you, because it's like there was also a controversial topic that he got the McDonald's All-American over guys that actually were better than him, which was true. Like the guy that he is in college was the guy he was in high school. He was like the third or fourth best player. You had that one kid from UCLA, Amani Bailey on his squad. Yeah. You had a few other players on his squad that was a lot better than Bronny. If we're just being honest, right?
Right.
And having the name James, right, is what really pushed him forward of us. And the fact that he has a little bit of vert and he can dunk, it's like, oh my God. But if we're being perfectly honest, like even what you just said, like he was that in high school. Like he was like the second or third or fourth best player on his high school team. Right. It's just his last name was James. And, you know, like, if we're just being completely blunt, like, I don't think that of the sons that, like, whose dads, like, played in the league, he might be the third or fourth nicest or fifth nicest son. Like, the nicest son I've seen was Carlos Boozer's kid. Cameron Boozer's son?
Yeah.
Nice. Like, Gilbert Arenas' son is, like,
Elijah.
Cold. Like, he's not even on their level to me yet, right? Like, I don't
even think Bronny is
on DJ Wagner's level.
Yeah. And I can't wait to see Melo's son too.
Oh yeah, Cayenne, yeah.
I can't wait to see Melo's son. But isn't he around the age of Bryce?
Yeah, around that age.
Yeah. So I think that'll be interesting to see those two come up together. I know Bryce is probably because I think Bryce is bigger.
Yeah.
So he might be, I'm not sure if he's older. I know he's definitely bigger right now. So I feel like he'll definitely be far ahead and beyond. But I think he's going to get LeBron's athleticism. It's just how much can he shoot going into it, where LeBron was just feasting off of athleticism until a certain point where he had to shoot in order to be able to affect the game in a way where he became unstoppable. So all in all, I don't think that the media is being overly critical. I do think Bronny has some growth to do that would benefit him to stay another season in college instead of going in, hopefully with NIL deals and people being able to make money. I know it's not the same with the WNBA situation that we talked about off camera, but I do think them being able to make some bread in college, where I think Bronny had like a $5 million evaluation. Arch Manning ain't played a snap and got a multi-million-dollar evaluation. So we'll see what happens with the NIL deals. But next up, Eric Bieniemy signed as an offense coordinator with UCLA. Has had issues getting coaching opportunities, a head coaching opportunity. Many people feel like he should have stayed with the Chiefs. You paid a lot of attention and you covered the NFL. So what are your thoughts on him not getting NFL positions? Is it benefiting him to step down and go to college? Is this better where he's suited at?
Yes. I've called him the Black Josh McDaniels because he is. If we're being perfectly honest, like, I think that we want him to be good because he's an African American offensive coordinator, but he's really not that great. If we're just being perfectly honest with you, like, it's because he was in Andy Reid's system, and the fact that Andy Reid allowed him to be a little bit more balanced. Like, you remember Matt Nagy on the Bears? Like, when Matt Nagy left, he was mid. Like, that's Eric Bieniemy to me as well. Like, the problem is he's too old school, and he's one of those people that he commands your respect without earning the respect.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the biggest issue in his interviews, right? Because we interviewed him, the Raiders interviewed him, and Antonio Pierce for him to not hire him, it's like, yeah,
I
right.
saw
And
that.
it's and it's like that's the thing in interviews that rubs you the wrong way about him is that
He even said that he wanted him to get a job, but he was like, he just felt like it wasn't a good fit for us.
yeah, it's like he has this drill sergeant thing about him to where it's like this is how you run offense, and that's why I call it Josh McDaniels, is because Josh McDaniels is so robotic. He doesn't know anything but football. He doesn't know how to relate to you from a human aspect or talk to you. He only knows how to talk to you from a football standpoint. And this day and age with the athletes, you need somebody that's going to be there for you, somebody that's going to kind of like not kiss your butt, but kind of be like, yo, this is how you run it. Like, here, right? It's no, you got to run it like that, like run that, like that. And I feel like that's his issue of why he hasn't got an NFL job like that, right? And I think that UCLA, this is the perfect fit for him. And I love it because the biggest issue that he has as a play caller, in my opinion, is he's not a balanced play caller. He doesn't know how to call a run. He's really focused more on the passing aspect and the spread out aspect of football, where Deshaun Foster was a running backs coach and he's a running back. And coming from UCLA, they developed Zach Charbonnet, Joshua Kelly, a bunch of different running backs. So he's going to hone him to be a better passer, but he's also going to allow him to run the football. So it's going to create that balance, right? So he's going to be allowed to have more balance, and I think that's all Eric Bieniemy needs as a offensive coordinator, is somebody in his ear to be like, hey, run it a little bit more. Hey, calm down a little bit. Hey, do this in X, Y, and Z. Because Andy Reid's the chillest person to like be around, right? He makes offense fun, like ring around the rosy and all this other stuff. Eric Bieniemy ain't doing that, right? So that's the thing. Just chill a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like have fun. And I think being around college kids is going to allow him to do that. Chill, have fun, be a little bit laid back. And then I think maybe in a couple of years, if he shows something, then I think he'll be able to get a job.
Yeah, I think it'll be good because I think at this point, because they say, I think he's like my dad's age. And they say, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And so this is one of those things where can he step down, be humble, realize the things there's reasons why I'm not getting where I want to go. Take a step down, learn how to be more balanced, be a little bit more laid back while also holding people accountable. Because I feel like there's a balance between, it's like this, I had a conversation, I'm a father. And so we're talking about, people always ask me questions about how I discipline my daughter. And I think that there's a balance between holding her accountable while also giving her some leeway to go out there, make mistakes, and learn. And so I think with Eric Bieniemy, he's running into an issue where it's like, all right, you fumbling the fucking football. You gotta chill out. But there's a certain way to get that message across without being a drill sergeant. And so I think it can either get worse with him being in college because grown men is not taking that. But there's some kids, because essentially they're still kids, that can take that and deal with that with a little bit better attitude than a grown man in the NFL. So he can either get worse or he can learn from his mistakes and get to a better position.
Facts.
In life. And so next up, where are we at? I'm not there. Cam. My man Cam was jumped at a 7-on-7 event. Eventually, it came out. It was from grown ass men and the coaches of a team that was there that jumped on him. We've seen the kids going back and forth with him. Now, coach jumping on him. The way he's treated in the media. Why is Cam so disrespected?
I think because he marches to the beat of his own drum. I think it's a lot of to do with his personality. Like he's really he's his own person. He's opinionated, right? And you forget a lot of the times that he's an MVP and all these other things. So when he says certain things to you, it's not coming off as hate. It's coming off of, hey, this is my opinion and this is what I think. And a lot of times you take that the wrong way, right? Because you look at him, he dresses weird, and you're like, who's this like talking to you like that, right? So it's like your machismo as a man is like, I'm not letting this nigga with the Doctor Evil hat, like the hat talk to me like that, right? I'm not letting Willy Wonka hat talk to me like that, right?
Look like Mad Hatter.
Mad Hatter. That's what I was thinking. I'm not letting the Mad Hatter talk to me any kind of way. I'm not letting this nigga with the glasses talk to me any kind of way, right? So that's where it becomes like it's more. It's not about what he was. It's all of a sudden now it becomes a personal attack, right? To his character. You're never. Whenever you talk about Cam Newton, you're never talking about what he did in the league. You're talking about what he is now. Oh, he's not a good football player anymore, so you're hating. Or look at the way he dresses. And so it comes down to that, right? But when he's giving you like pure football opinion, it's more so you're a hater, right? But he's giving you, but I would rather get like him tell me something than somebody else because he was an MVP. He got it done at a high level, right? And it's one of those things to where they don't care because they care more about what's the outward appearance is more than what the knowledge is. And I think that's really where he rubs people the wrong way at.
Yeah, I definitely see that, man. I definitely agree with you too. I feel like too often we get so near, we get so short-minded where we forget about the past. It's like, yes, I understand Cam was cut. Cam eventually got to New England, had a decent first season, was beat out for the starting position the next year. Didn't play well with the Panthers when he signed halfway through the season. And then, so what we've seen recently is he was on his downfall. But his peak is not, there's not too many people's peak that's beating his peak because of everything that he was able to do as far as throwing the football, running the football. I will argue, and this is a hill I'm willing to die on. Just look at his receiving core when he went to the Super Bowl.
Bad.
And what they go 15-1, 14-2.
Yep, it was bad.
Like, and I know that, like and I'm the main one that be saying this is the Super Bowl is a team accomplishment. But just look how he played. Is my only thing. Is like Ted Ginn. What he had,
Philly Brown,
like
Jericho Cotchery,
like what? And then Greg Olsen was balling, but like as much as I think Greg Olsen was great, I still feel like if Greg Olsen is your best option throwing the football, hey, more power to you, my brother. And so I think what he was able to do with that team. I just don't get it. Like when I'm like, are we not watching the same football? Like Colin Cowherd, although I do big props to him for being in everything he's been able to accomplish. But whenever they talk about him, I hate the fact that with dual threat quarterbacks, we act as if how effective they are running the football doesn't matter. Because when we start talking about these top quarterbacks, they leave out Lamar's rushing yards as if it's not a major component of what his total game is. It's like, oh, well, he only threw for 2,500 yards. It's like, yeah, but he ran for 1,200 yards also. So can we put those in there?
Right.
And so I'm like, it's this certain stuff where I'm just like, I feel like they tweak the stats and things like that in order to be able to put certain narratives. And we'll get into it later when it comes to stats. I just don't believe in only looking at the stats. Stats only tell so much. Like I physically watched Tracy McGrady play. I don't give a damn what stats that Paul George got over him. Paul George is not a better basketball player. And it's like little shit like that. They just look at stats and they'll be able to like, oh, well, this player is better than this. And it's like, well, he didn't do this because of this right here. It's like, well, can you open up the stat book and look at the full stat sheet before we start addressing people and treating people the same way? And so I'm like, I hate the disrespect. I'm glad I haven't seen anybody criticize Cam in these situations that just happened. I've seen people ask certain questions, why are you there, and things of that such. But that just goes to the testament of who Cam Newton has been and who he is, being able to physically put himself in these positions where he's the one they're coaching instead of you see Cam Newton 7-on-7, he shows up, starts off the tournament, all right, y'all have a good one, and then you never see him again.
Right.
And so I'm actually looking forward to it because I've watched 4th and 1 a lot. I'm looking forward to what he has to say on his side, if he can talk about it at all. Just before the show, I was watching Gil's Arena, and they got to talking about scouting. I seen this stat where it was like 34 out of 80 players from the 2020 and 2021 draft, the top 80 players from those two drafts are no longer, or 34 of the 80 are no longer on the team that drafted them. So it got me thinking about, like, when you look at Miami will take 6 undrafted players and their one first round pick that they have, and they hit on all of those, or if not a lot of them. And so it got me thinking, like, why do you see play like an organization like the Hornets, year after year they'll pick a player, and it's just like miss, miss, miss. And then it's like you would think, like, going into it, like you would like just to think about people that they drafted over the last couple of years. They had LaMelo, Bridges, Brandon Miller. I remember they signed for Hayward. What was my boy? Scary Terry, Book Knight, Kai Jones, Marcus Williams. Like, all of these players have had such like high hopes going into it and a lot of promise and things of that such. But as far as, like, I feel like Brandon Miller is really the only one that's shown me so far that I'd be willing to put that money behind him. Because LaMelo is nice, but when he on the court,
Right.
then Bridges can't keep his hands to himself.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the way to use the G League, right? And it's the way that you use the developmental system. Because I don't think, like, I never really pegged like the Hornets or Michael Jordan ever had a plan of drafting. I think that his whole theory of drafting was draft the best ACC player because he came from North Carolina. So every year he was drafting North Carolina players or Duke players or some type of blue blood conference players without a typical plan on how to use them. And I think, like, in general, the way that we play now and the way that we develop certain positions, I think it's the problem, right? Because for me, I covered US Team USA basketball this year, and I noticed the reason why, like, we were getting ran this year in the Olympics was because the way that we developed the center, right? Because when I knew Team USA was going to lose, when we asked the question to Steve Kerr, like, who is your starting center going to be, right? And he said Paolo Banchero. And I was like, yeah, it's done. You're done. And it was like, during pregame, I noticed, like, Walker Kessler and Bobby Portis was out there shooting threes, like, and Spoelstra holding up a broom, and they're out there jacking up threes. And it sounded like a gun range because they can't shoot threes. So it's like, why are you making players do things that they don't do, right? They don't shoot threes. They're supposed to be out there to rebound and block shots, right? And the thing that, when it comes to Miami, that I hated last year, and I'm going to make this joke, and I made it to Kai, and he started laughing. The fact Cody Zeller got any burn last playoffs, pissed me off. Cody Zeller should not be playing significant playoff basketball. Why? Because we don't value the center position. Right, but you don't realize you need the center until you need the center. Center should not be out there jacking up threes. But in this era of basketball, that's what we want. We want a 3-point center, right? Like, the NBA has turned into positionless basketball, right? Like, we want the Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama's don't grow on trees. Chet Holmgrens don't grow on trees. Now all these dudes jump up and can carry the ball up the court. So you got to allow a player to play in their natural position. And the problem is, it's like you're drafting a Kai Jones who was big and slow in Texas. Guess what? He's going to be big and slow in the NBA. So find a way to use him and utilize his position of pick and roll to the lane. Why is he out there jacking up threes, right? And that's an American problem, right? And that's why we're getting busted in the Olympics. because that's the problem, right? We're getting busted. We're getting busted because we're losing the rebounding game significantly, right? Like the game that I covered, we played Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico rebounded us by like, I don't remember the stat. It was like 42 to like 18, some shit like that. Like it was significant. And Puerto Rico, their biggest dude was 6'8". But yet we couldn't get on the boards because like they're not teaching them how to rebound or do anything effectively. We're only teaching them the offensive game of how to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a kid named Moses Brown, right? And he always gets these 10-day contracts. And when he plays, he gets like 20 rebounds and like 6 blocks in the game.
Out, bro.
He balls out, but he's on like his 8th team. Why? Because he can't shoot threes.
I don't get it. I'm like, I'll be watching basketball. I was like, he affects basketball.
Right. He affects the game, but guess what? He can't shoot threes, so he's not a significant part of my team. So guess what? He's not playing. But guess what? We'll sign Cody Zeller.
Yeah.
We'll sign Cody Zeller. We'll sign Tristan Thompson. We'll sign all these slow-ass dudes come playoff time that shouldn't be playing, but we won't develop a Moses Brown because he can't shoot a three. That's the problem right there.
Yeah, I think Gil made a lot of really good points on this situation. He was talking about how lazy that scouts are. It's like,
yes,
like they won't physically watch the game. They just look at people's stat lines and the analytics, and then judge you based off of that. And I just feel like like I said, there's an eye test too that goes along with it, that I can put your numbers where you scored from on the court, but also watch the game, see how you come off the pick and roll, see how you shoot, how do you handle the ball when it's a face-up game. Do you have a face-up game? Do you have a jumper? Are you a pick and pop? Are you a pick and roll? Like, I feel like when we look at it, it's like, all right, you should be able to look at someone and it's like, all right, cool. So he has a high motor, he's super athletic, 6'9", but he can't shoot or dribble. It's like, well, you can't teach the athleticism. You can't teach how someone's height and in the high motor, but I can teach you how to shoot and dribble.
Right.
And so I think that too often they just look at things. It's like when he was doing the story, he was specifically talking about Amani Bates. And it's like, there's certain things about Amani Bates that he has that you just can't teach. But then they'll look at his shortcomings and be like, well, he's such a streaky shooter. It's like, I can go through history and tell you people that were streaky shooters, because it's how streaky are you? Like, to a certain degree, Dame is super streaky. He can hit you for 70-something. But then he also, like, if it's bad out there, it's bad, but he going to keep shooting. And so you kind of got to live with that. But the tough shot making, the ability to create his own jumper and things of that such, you can't necessarily teach that. It's either they got it or they don't. And I feel like too often these scouts are just looking at numbers instead of looking at the game and how the game is actually played.
And also, too, comparisons are racist, right? Like, I don't know if you remember Yi Jilian, they said he was Yao Ming. Nigga, how? Because he's Asian? He's Korean? They played nothing alike.
He wasn't even close to how big or tall he was.
They weren't even like, it was that. If you're Moritz Mo Wagner, they compared him to Dirk Nowitzki. Why? Because he's German and tall.
Games are not similar. Actually, I do like Mo Wagner though,
and I love Wagner. But I'm just saying, like, if you're a tall, big foreigner, you're either Peja Stojakovic, you're either Dirk, you're either any foreigner that could shoot who was tall. If you're tall and you're African, you're Embiid or Korean or Elijah. Why? Because you're African and you're Cambodian or from Cameroon. Like, it's racist. Depending on like where you're from, right? Like, if you're Hashim Thabit, compared him to Dikembe Mutombo, how and why?
Yeah,
like,
that was racist.
They're racist. Like, it's the comparisons are racist. Like, it's extremely racist, right? And we're not going to talk about the NFL draft right now, but I look at some of these NFL draft comparisons, and I'm like, you're only just comparing his height and that's it. That's all. But you're not comparing your actual game. It's because because Drake May is 6'4" and 220. He's Justin Herbert because Justin Herbert was 6'4" and 220. That's it.
They play nothing alike.
And they play nothing alike, bro. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it's based off of how tall you are, how you look, and what your race is. That's literally what the comparisons are.
Yeah, those are facts. Yeah, I hate it. I hate how lazy they are. And this is why one of the reasons why I was so inspired to get into the field that I am, being able to cover this and just try to build my platform up so we can get to the masses and finally be able to have these real conversations. Because I swear I'll be looking like, you can tell there's people's personal bias. You can tell people's pride is on the line. They're here to push a certain narrative about a player. And yeah, I just can't wait to really be able to break down. Another category, I know we didn't talk about it. I really can't wait to really dive into the film of the quarterback position. And we're going to get into it at another time, but I just want to say this real quick because we actually do have a lot of time left. I'm just not 100% sold that Caleb is just this can't miss quarterback.
Jaden Daniels is. Jaden Daniels is who they want. They're not hyping Jaden Daniels at all. Jaden Daniels is 100% the best quarterback in the draft. I don't care what nobody tells me.
Yes.
That's the prospect that should be. It's because of what Caleb Williams did last year.
Right.
And it's what Drake May did last year of why you're like, but Jaden Daniels has been consistent his entire career. He's the best thrower of the football of the draft. He's the most athletic quarterback of the draft. I don't think it's close, but whatever.
Yeah, for some reason we don't know what we're talking about though. And so we got the 2-minute drill. Although I think we got a lot of time left, so we probably spend a little bit more time on it. But NFL ups the ante with the salary cap. The salary cap is jumped, I believe it's 39 million or 30 million, but I know the number is $255.4 million. I know it's at least 30 million. So what does this mean for the salary cap and free agency going forward, specifically this year?
Well, I think for me, like this year, looking at certain positions, I think the wide receiver and the defensive side of the ball gets paid. But I think in the future, you're going to start seeing these extreme quarterback contracts like that skyrockets. And I think that's the thing. It's like you're realizing that you have to pay the quarterback, right? And realizing that you have to pay the quarterback is leaving other areas of your team bare to where you can't sign anything else because you just pay the quarterback and that's it. So now you're starting to see other positions be minimalized, like the running back position, right? Because of where other amount of money is being allocated towards, right? So I think hopefully now with the salary cap being raised a little bit, that we do start to see some running back love a little bit, because I do think Saquon Barkley gets broke off, like I do. And I'm just hoping that some of the running backs get valued for what they do. And I hopefully that means a positive for them, right? Guys like offensive linemen, I hope they start to get broke off in certain ways. Interior defensive linemen, I hope they get broke off, right? I think there's some positions that might fall by the wayside, like linebackers. Although I think Patrick Queen gets broke off because his age and things of that nature. But there's just certain positions that I just think that just the need that we told ourselves that we don't need them. Like linebackers, we don't need them because the first round draft pick rate of linebackers hasn't been great. So we're just kind of like, okay, we can underpay them and get some third round guy from Appalachian State to come in here and play for a couple of games and he shows off. Right. I really hope that players of need, because you don't understand, like I mentioned with Moses Brown earlier, you don't realize what you need a certain position until you need that position. Mm-hmm. And I hope those type of positions get paid, right? And they get their worth. And it's one of those things where I hope everybody can get theirs who deserves to get theirs, and not just it all going toward the quarterback.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that, man. I think that I hate how much like the quarterback position is just overvalued. Like I understand that it's a very important position, but at the same time, it's overvalued. Like so I'm tired of seeing certain players get these contracts. Like there's no way Daniel Jones should have got that money before Saquon.
Before
Like it's
him, it
not
was
a
Osweiler, bro. Got like
yeah.
75 million for no reason.
And it's like, wait, what? Like maybe I ain't been watching the same tape. Because for me, I'm just like Daniel Jones was not that dude. And to go like how much love he was given, I'm just like, I just don't see it, bro. Maybe I'm tripping. I felt the same way when it came with what was old boy that played at Kentucky? Um, that was they had old boy looking sad in the draft room. He plays for the Titans now. I can't think of
Oh,
his name.
Will Levis.
Yeah, yeah. There's gonna be certain stuff that people be getting this hype, and I'm like, maybe I'm just not watching the same tape. And so I do think that that when we talk about the running back position specifically, I do hope that some of this money can go to them because you do have we've seen the potential of Bijan Robinson. We saw in flashes how important Jahmyr Gibbs can be. When we talk about game managers, we talk about how many quarterbacks hand the ball off 25 times a game, 25, 30 times a game to complement the play action in order to be able to get the ball down the field.
Right.
Jared Goff specifically. Baker Mayfield is another one that falls into that category as well. So it's to say like the worse the quarterback, the more important your running back is. And I feel like not too many teams can say that they threw the ball the whole time and really didn't run the ball. Because even the Chiefs, this year specifically, they needed Isaiah Pacheco to get them tough yards.
Right.
And so and you got Patrick Mahomes, who some people are starting to feel like he's all ready to go. Me specifically, I feel like he's in the conversation, and he just got to keep staying on this path. But it's certain positions that are way more valuable than what they get, and I think that, like you said, I think interior on both sides of the ball is undervalued, and then the running back position is another position that's undervalued. And I honestly think that the tight end position is undervalued as well.
Yeah.
Specifically when it comes to getting paid, because it's like Travis Kelce should be making top wide receiver money with how important he is to that offense.
Yeah, facts.
And so next up, I'll take the lead on this one. So my Cubbies, they signed your boy Cody Bellinger. I was a little nervous about this one. Actually, the day of the signing, I had thought about it in the morning, and I was like, man, I'm starting to see all these spring training notifications. And I know he was up for a contract because he only signed like a 2 year. I think he signed a 1 year deal. But he had over 300 yards. 300. I'm so used to talking about football. 300 batting average. Had a slugging percentage of like in the 500s. Over 100 RBIs. So he had a heck of a year. So I was kind of nervous, especially where we were pushing for the playoffs at the end, but we just ended up falling a little short. And I feel like bringing him back and trying to add more pieces around him was what we need in order to get to the next level, or at least to be able to just continue to just year by year get better. And so when I seen the notification, it was 3 years, 80 mil. And I was like, they bringing your boy back. And so to answer the question, was this a good signing? I think it's a great signing. At the end of the day, you need someone that when all hell is breaking loose, it don't matter what's going on, he can knock the cover off the ball. They say chicks love the long ball, and he's a home run hitter, hard hitter, gets on base, knocks in runs, and so putting him in the middle of a lineup, and then we just made a trade to create some space for him. They got a minor league player, so now we got some youth. And we have a really good farm system. I've been paying attention to some of the draft picks over the years. I don't have the names in front of me, but I know our farm system And the players that we have in it, we've been trading people away, getting farm AAA, AA players to be able to build a solid team. And I think within the next 2-3 years, I would predict that we would be in the playoffs and a contender for a World Series. And so, record signing, talking about contracts, Steve Kerr gets a 2-year, $35 million deal. We talked about all year whether or not this is the end of a dynasty. Mike Dunleavy takes over the team. Clay is on the bench. There's talks of Draymond and his situation, whether or not should he be part of the future. But the one thing we know Steph is still Steph. So, but for how long can you be able to juice this orange, I guess you could say, pause if needed. But did Steve Kerr deserve the extension?
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Kerr is still one of the better coaches in the league. I mean, and they lost a big key to their engine, if you will, this offseason with Bob Myers when he left and he took the broadcasting job. So it's good to have your head coach intact, right? Like if you lose a big executive, your general manager, the one that built the dynasty, you at least need somebody that can help you rebuild what you had and has an idea of what you want. Because a lot of people forget before coming to the Warriors, he was the executive of the year with the Suns, right? So he knows how to build a team just as much. And you have a first-year guy in Dunleavy currently running that organization. So he's a good sounding board of what players we're looking for, who we should draft, right? We talked our past segment earlier when we talked about scouting and stuff like that. You know, like Steve Kerr can really scout really well of players that he likes and what he wants. That kid, Brandon Podnowski, fits what they do very well. That guy, Lester, I can't say his name, Cuenos or Cuenos. It's a Puerto Rican name, Lester Cuenos. They have a very good. They're one of those teams like the Heat, like we mentioned before, that has a very good farm system in the Santa Cruz Warriors that calls up people. Gary Payton Jr., right? And you're able to develop guys that fit their system that plays really good minutes. Sean Livingston a long time ago, right?
Right.
And so a lot of that has to do with Steve Kerr of knowing that the identity of your team and understanding talent. And he's an amazing sounding board for a young general manager, especially when you lost someone like Bob Myers. So, of course, I think that it not only is he coaching you, but he's helping develop some of the players that needed to be developed. So, yeah, I think it's well deserved.
What do you think was what happened with the Wiseman situation?
The one thing that I don't like about Steve Kerr is what I just said in the Olympics. He doesn't like centers. If you really think about it, they've never really had the patience or really could develop a center. The best center they've ever had was probably Bogut, right? Festus Ezeli never worked out. You know, you think about it. They want big power forwards. And I think the thing about Wiseman, they wanted to win now. And Wiseman needed a long time to develop. And I don't think that they had enough patience to develop Wiseman. Because like you're in the final years of your career, if you're the big three, and you got a young kid that, you know, we thought that we could have him with Kuminga, Moses Moody, and these younger guys, but you're like, Steph is 35, Clay is 34, like they're older. We don't have enough time to develop him, so this is not what we need. We need somebody that can come in right now and play. Like Brandon Podolski can come in and shoot the ball and win and do what we want to do right now. And in the future, he would have probably been good, but right now we don't have time to develop the future. So I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I'm pulling up. He's not having a good year right now.
Wiseman?
Yeah.
It's very up and down. Very up and down.
I'll see games where he has like a good stat line. Then I'll see games where I'm just like, damn.
Yeah, it's just a lack of patience of the center position. He's not one of those typical centers that can shoot threes.
Yeah.
He's an old school center, and that's what the league doesn't like, and that's why we get hoed in the Olympics, because we need a Wiseman on the Olympic team, and they don't like that. They want a kid like Cooper Flag that's about to come out that can come out and shoot threes. They want a kid like Chet, 6-7 foot that can get rebounds, that can shoot threes, that can. That's what they want. But you need a Wiseman, a guy that can put his hands
But
up.
I hate the coverage. I hate the way that they cover Cooper Flag.
Huh?
I said I don't have nothing against Cooper Flag, but I just hate the way Cooper Flag is covered.
Oh yeah, they glaze him.
Yeah, they're definitely This
glaze.
nigga's the great white hope.
But that's who they want him. That's like they're going to be their Olympic. That's like Christian Laettner. That's who they think is going to like change and revolutionize American basketball, because all the bigs that we've seen are foreigners. We just can't do nothing about it.
Right. And so, speaking of changing the landscape of basketball, Juju, homegirl Juju out here balling. She's a freshman right now, right?
Yep.
And so leads me to the question: is she the next face of women's college basketball?
She's baby Cheryl Miller, bro. That's baby Cheryl Miller. She's the nicest. Like that's like we talk about nice hoopers. Like she's one of the nicest female hoopers I've ever seen. Right? Like she's up that Candace Parker mode. She's up that like that ilk. Like, and this is not to take any away from like Caitlin Clark or anything, because Caitlin Clark can hoop. But Caitlin Clark's a shooter. Like she's I think Juju's just a natural. Just her game is beautiful. She has the best female game I've seen since Cheryl Miller. She's nice. Like she's super nice. Like, and she's been nice since high school. Like, and it's like she's gonna be nice the rest of her life. Like when you start to talk about like some of the past female faces, like the Diana Taurasi's, the Sue Birds, and stuff like that. She's of that ilk. Like she's gonna be that. I highly, and she's one of those people that I think the WNBA needs for ratings purposes.
Yeah,
like her and Caitlin Clark, that class, they need that. You know, as far as because these are girls that can ball.
Yeah, I think that the league is definitely in good hands because I think Angel Reese and her personality, while also the only thing for me is she's not as big. Where like her game is, I don't know if she can play the 5. She definitely got to play the 4. So she just would have to get on the right team next to the right big to be able to really be able to do damage. But I think Angel Reese, Juju, Caitlin, Paige, girl that's on LSU, Haley. I think that I think they got a good crop that's already in. Yeah, Paige. I think they got a really good crop that's about to come into the league over the next couple of years, mixed with Sabrina, Asia, Brianna. I even really think that the Atlanta Dream are going to be good.
I like Aaliyah Boston too. Like she's a young.
Yeah. I like Aaliyah a lot. And so I think that the league is in good hands. And so I do think that with the others being older, I think Juju being the youngest is definitely we're definitely going to get her for at least 2 or 3 more seasons. And so I do think that she will and should be the face of women's college basketball going forward.
Agreed.
And so make sure, like I mentioned before, make sure you go and you follow all the socials on that ticker down at the bottom. I got some combine footage coming up next week. I'm going to do an NBA power rankings on Friday. Make sure y'all drinking y'all water and you mind your business. When life gives you lemon, you make coffee. But make sure you go and you follow, like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Juke Media on YouTube, Juke Sports Show on Instagram, the He Say She Say channel on Facebook. Follow me at KYNGRALPH on all platforms, add an underscore for X or Twitter. And it's been a pleasure, but we out of here. And like I always say, love, peace, and Aces 3P.